Today's columnist Peter Fitzsimons issued a plea to Nick Kyrgios to stop living the cliche. Peter Fitzsimons joins us now. Peter, what do you mean by stop living the cliche, and what is it that's outraged you so much just now?
I'm not outraged. I'm far more outraged about gay marriage and climate change. Seriously.
Well, you should have come on
earlier.
earlier.
We've gone through the serious issues. Now we get to the toy room. Thank you, yes. No, I'm not outraged at all. I'm just saying, mate, as gently as I can, we all understand you're 20 years old. OK, so we were all 20 years old and we were all, you know, a bit difficult. And my elder brothers told me to pull my head in. And I did. And so I suppose in this kind of stuff in the public domain, you're just saying, mate, we love you. OK, geez, how well do you play? What heart you've got. How you keep going in the fifth set. You're like Leighton Hewitt. You go to the absolute last gasp. But just one little plea. Could you be nice to the ball kids? Could you not have to have the tantrum with the umpire and that? Can you just keep going with the forehand, the backhand, do the overhead smash and do all that? But just the McEnroe tantrum stuff, it's just tedious. I mean, that sort of aggro. And there are people who say, and I know because I've got a few Twitter results today, there are people that say you can't have one without t'other. You cannot have a 20-year-old with enough self-belief to turn up on centre court Wimbledon and say, I'm good enough to take on the world, give it all to me, and not flip it over on the other side of the coin and see somebody who's going to backchat the referee and all that. And the answer to that, two words, Rafael Nadal. Well, he did it, so did Roger Federer.
Well, clearly Nick Kyrgios is not going to be the sort of gentleman of tennis, at least not anytime soon. But you say that your brothers pulled you into line. I mean, should Tennis Australia or his parents or someone be pulling him into line?
We're going through now, if you look at the Sydney Morning Herald, so I did a column and I think there are 75 comments and I couldn't say exactly, but I think 70 are running my favour and 5 against me. And that's very rare for me. And I mean, the public looks at that and looks at Kyrgios and says much the same thing. We all want him to go well. We just don't want the tantrums and the carry on. And you look at Leighton Hewitt. I mean, Leighton Hewitt was fantastic in the way that he played, but you know he slammed that the American linesman. You know, that was just a really ugly episode. And for 10 years, as I wrote in the Herald, I said, look, we want to love you, but you've got to give us some more to work with here. And for the last 5 years, Leighton Hewitt is mature. He's 30 years old. He's a father of 2 or 3 kids. We love him again because he's matured and he's calmed down. All I said to Kyrgios was, can we just cut to the chase? Can you get to the 30-year-old? And people say, how naive, how dare you? He's only 20. And the answer is, when we were all 20 and we were out of line, it was our elders that said, pull your head in. So I suppose, you know, if you're thumping out a column, that's what you do. Now,
Judith has a comment or a question for you. I'm not sure which.
I'm just thinking that McEnroe is so last century from that point of view. I think with the increasing, this is looking at it from a strategic point of view, but Kyrgios knows perfectly well he's on television being watched by 150 million people, and you know it's a bit of showmanship, but you're right, I guess he will eventually grow out of it.
And David, do you have any sympathy for that point that Peter was making, that, you know, and indeed Judith, that there's a bit of showmanship here, but he is 20, he is under enormous pressure on that Wimbledon centre court?
I just find it really uncomfortable when I see people pick on umpires. I hate it when it happens at school sport. And so, you know, I think we should be teaching young people not to do it. There should be zero tolerance for that sort of thing.
When I was a young football player, Philip Cox, the Wallaby halfback, said to me, be nice to the referees, go up to them after the game, shake their hand and say, thank you, sir, good game, and you'll pick up a few best and fairest points. And yes, I did.
And what's really interesting is that school children learn this. What is it about elite athletes that they suddenly lose it?
Well, the answer is, Kieran Perkins once said to me that he said, Peter, you've got to understand, I spend 6 hours a day with my head in a bucket of water staring at a black line. And so the answer is, while the rest of us were making mistakes on the streets and doing all sorts of carry on and learning our way, you know, they're just hitting balls and hitting balls and hitting balls. And it's such a, if you live your life on that cruel axis of airport, tennis court, hotel, press conference, airport, tennis court, hotel, press conference, and everywhere you go there's the cocoon of adulation around you, it's pretty hard to think straight.
But I'm going to put in a plug for his mum, because I saw her interviewed and she said, she said, I can't give him a clip round the year anymore because he's too tall, but I'll give him a smack on the bum.
But that's the wonderful thing about the Kyrgios parents You know, like we're veterans in Australia of pretty difficult parents. Let's start with Damir Dokic, and the Kyrgios parents just seem lovely people. You know, like he's off to
So
a good.
could come good.
Well, he's off
Could
to a
come
good
good.
start.
Well, what about the argument that Tracy Holmes has made in her column that, you know, really you sometimes can't have one without the other. You need a bit of spark in order to
Tracy
get there
Holmes-
in the first place.
Tracy Holmes, name rings a bell.
Oh,
She's a good friend of mine, love her. Yeah, but we disagree on that.
oh, you disagree?
Well, as I said, you know, when you say you can't have one without the other, the answer is the two-word argument, Rafael Nadal. That's the end of the argument. He did. Has anybody ever seen him carry on with the umpires like that? Roger Federer ever carried on like that? You don't have to do it like that. Djokovic, who's the best player in the world, I don't think particularly, and there's far more learned tennis heads than mine will say, don't you remember the third round of the US Open 2009 when Djokovic did? I don't know, maybe he did. But as a pattern of behaviour, none of those guys do that. As a pattern of behaviour, Kyrgios is doing it right now, and I want it stopped, and I want it stopped now.
Now, just briefly, do you reckon he'll make it to number one?
Yes, because he's so good. He's so good. Jeez, he's good to watch. He's fantastic to watch. And, you know, and the way he plays. When he first strutted on the stage, and I use the word advisedly, you know, not just, you know, he's not a lot of players, with the greatest respect, a television wallpaper. You know, if this is summer, there's got to be an Australian. Oh, there he's gone, out of the first round. This guy came in at the age of 18, and he swaggers and he struts and he belts the ball, and he does it. He's wonderful to watch, and he's tremendously skilled with a great will to win. But it just, if you could just tone down the rest of it. You don't have to wipe it out altogether. Just not every time, mate. Not every first round, second round, third round. And be nice to the ball boys.
Listen
and the
up,
ball
Nick.
girls.
Listen up to your elders, Nick.